This episode of the Accounting Insiders podcast is brought to you in part by Xero. Xero is a powerful cloud accounting software that improves efficiencies across your practice. With all client data stored on a single unified ledger, you and your clients can easily access and collaborate on the same set of books. Xero's advisor tools and automation solutions reduce time-consuming manual tasks and put data entry on autopilot. Work faster and more efficiently than ever before with Xero. Visit xero.com/accounting insiders to learn more. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Accounting Insiders podcast. My name is Gary DeHart. I'm the publisher of Insightful Accountant and host of the Accounting Insiders podcast. My guest today is Debra Angilletta. And Deborah, I did not find out, and I should know this, your title or titles. I know you have multiple companies. So what do you put behind Debra Angilletta when I introduce you?
Yeah, so I'm the founder and owner of Angilletta and Associates, and I am a business advisor. So I'm involved in business advisory.
Okay, perfect. And with business advisory, are you targeted to any specific niche, or do you work any industry, any professions?
Yeah, so my primary consulting is typically with high-level coaches, usually at the 7 or 8-figure level. We've got professional services and also digital marketing or online marketers. That's pretty much the gamut of the people that I work with.
Okay, great. And with accounting professionals being tied in with that,
yes, and we're going to talk about that.
Services, right?
Yeah,
yes, and
absolutely.
We're going to talk about that. And so I think what we're going to dive into, so we're going to start off just to kind of set the table. We're going to start off a little bit about your background, kind of what brought you to where you are today, and then looking at kind of how you learned from, tied into, and leverage profit first professionals, in your firm and in your business. Can't have a conversation these days without talking about AI, and you can't have a conversation in accounting without talking about advisory. And so we're going to kind of bring those two together, right? Advisory and AI, and how a firm can leverage AI to build advisory. And then a couple of other questions just around some research that you've done recently to help accounting pros understand what their clients think. And as a small business guy, I'm looking forward to hearing what that is, because I bet they're my same 3 problems that we're going to come up with, because it's probably 90% have the same problems, and then there's 10% who have, maybe some other things. So thanks for taking some time here. It is January the 7th. This is my first podcast of the year, so maybe I should have a goal of 1 a week, and this just gets me into the first week here, since it's still the 7th. So let's start with just your background. How did you get to do what you're doing now? What's that roadmap look like?
Yeah, so it started off back when I was always interested in finance. So I started off in banking, made my way to financial planning, high net worth financial planning, and then moved on. My latest corporate career was as a Wall Street trader. So what that thread all puts together is that I've had my whole career, my background in finance over 35 years now. And so I was very, very much used to reading P&Ls and balance sheets and doing research on companies. So as I moved out of corporate and started my own business, because I had a little bundle of joy on the way about 14 years ago. So that is why I made my transition into consulting on the financial side. It evolved. I was doing basic business coaching, but then it evolved into business advisory. And so this is where it comes into where accountants and bookkeepers and where that arena started to all come together. And so because of having that financial background, analyzing companies, I was able to take that skill set and overlay it to business advisory, really looking at a deep level at clients, balance sheets and P&Ls, and be able to create profitable businesses. Because listen, you can make $1 million, but if you spend $1 million, you don't have a profitable business, right? There's so many different things a business owner can do to really right the ship on that. So that's how that started. And then I started to meet accountants and bookkeepers and CPAs and EAs and start to work with them and partner with them. And I found a very, very unique opportunity as well as a big hole in that industry. And that really really leads me to the research that I've been doing recently as well.
Okay. And you're going to tell us what those opportunities and holes are?
Absolutely.
Fantastic. All right. So I mentioned profit first. So
Yeah.
what is profit first? Most of our readers or audience probably know that, but I don't want to make any assumptions. So
Yeah.
can you just share what that is and how that's impacted what you do?
Yeah, so I met Profit First, oh my gosh, almost 10 years ago now. So Mike
Okay.
Michalowicz is the author of the book Profit First, and he's an author and a speaker. So he published the book. It was a big hit. He does a lot of speaking engagements. People are like, Mike, this book is fantastic. He went ahead and outlaid the steps to implement, and they went up to him. And they're like, this is great, but can you help me implement? And he's like, well, I can't, but I can put together a team of people who can.
Yeah.
And then that's how I wound up partnering with Profit First. I'm telling you, it's the only system that I've ever seen out there that deliberately puts a roadmap in place to create a profitable business. It's the only thing out there. And I know that because I've implemented it in over 300 companies now, maybe even probably more than that, over 300 companies, and I've seen how the impact works and how it helps the business owner course correct so that they can keep being profitable, or they're not profitable, the steps that they actually need to take. It really gives the roadmap for profitability and really the playbook, because we love playbooks, right? To
Right. Yep.
be able to get from where we are to here to the transformation over here. And the transformation they're looking for is a more seamless, profitable business so they can sleep at night, things are predictable, and all those wild cards that hit them as business owners, they're able to hold them at bay and not have any surprises. Business owners hate surprises.
Surprises are not good, especially when they come on December 29th or December
That's
30th.
right.
Yeah,
That's right.
I don't need the bad news then.
Yeah,
Right.
no, nobody
That's
does.
yeah, that is not helpful for me. As
Yeah.
again, I speak at it from a small business owner's perspective. Um, if my accountant isn't giving me the tools and the more importantly, the information, soon enough, we can't react on it, right? And or we can't build a plan. We don't want to
Mhm.
react, but we can't have a plan in place. So yeah, I've read all of Mike's books. Although you in the green room, you said he has two more that he's just put out, another one he's
Oh
working
yeah.
on. I
Oh
don't know how you
yeah.
keep up with his books. He writes
Yeah.
so fast, but they're all great.
They are great.
They are, and I think if you can implement, even pieces of what he writes about in the various books,
Yeah.
it can be greatly impactful. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
so let's talk about upgrading to advisory and
Mm.
leveraging AI. We talked in the beginning, can't have a conversation these days without AI. So it's
Mm.
almost, I'm wondering if we're starting to close our ears because we hear it so much. But
Mm.
how have you seen accounting firms leveraging AI and more importantly, leveraging it to move to help their move to advisory?
Yeah. And I think it's a great conversation to start talking about AI here, Gary, because I think that we have heard it for a long time, and it is starting to become noise, most unfortunately. But I think one thing that is probably really, really helpful for everybody to know is that the first thing is a mindset shift, right? It's noise, but we do have to pay attention to it because there is this thing, and I think that this is important to talk about, is that there's something called the law of polarity or the law of opposites. And I think it's really applicable here to talk about that. What that means is that if there is something that exists here, then the opposite has to exist, right? So if we have I have a pen here, right? We have a top and a bottom. We have a left and a right. It doesn't matter, right? We can cut off the top, we can cut off the bottom. We're still going to have both. So when it comes to this concept of the law of opposites, it overlays to AI. And I'm going to tell you why. A lot of people have this nervousness or aversion to AI. They think that it's bad. They think that it's not going to be able to do what it needs to do. And they also think a lot of times it's going to take over their job, right? Those are some natural thoughts. But what you have to remember, what exists over here that's the bad, there's got to be good in it.
Mm,
There's got to be good in it. And where the good is for accountants is that you can now leverage this AI in your business because now you have a way to have help in your business, right? Because I know accountants struggle to manage their workflow. And now AI has brought these solutions to our businesses where we're able to do more in less time, service the clients at a high level. And right when it comes to hiring, that's always a big struggle for accountants. So there is a time and a place to hire and the people to hire, but this kind of takes that stress of hiring out. For now, there's a place, time and a
Hmm.
place for that. But to do the compliance work, we have AI for that. And so if you're not bringing it into your business, your future clients, they're out there looking for those solutions. Now, you bring a different value to the relationship. And that's what we're going to talk about because AI is really going to help your audience up level to that advisory. And advisory is what your clients are looking for. The compliance is the commodity. And I'm not just saying that. I understand how important the job and the role of an accountant is. I work with them all day long and I so appreciate what they do. But at the same time, we have to go with what our clients see in us and what the clients want and what's important to them. And they see compliance as a commodity. It's not so important to them. It's just a necessity. So why not step into the place of what they want? And I know a lot of accountants find the advisory much more stimulating, much more interactive, and they're able to make really, really big strides with their clients versus staying in the compliance lane. And that's really when we're looking at the two sides of that. This is the good part of AI. We can use it to our advantage. Use it in your business. It's fine. Yes, you have to oversee it. It's not going to be perfect, right? But
Right.
that is a way that you can leverage your business. And also, right, what's the biggest commodity, right? What's the biggest thing that we need in our life? Is it money or is it time? We
Right.
need the money. A lot of us are
Right.
able to capture that, but time is always the elusive thing that we're always looking to buy back. You can buy back your time with AI.
Yeah. And from a like again, I always come at it from the small business perspective. As a small business owner, and don't send me hate mail or hate emails or tweets or whatever. When I say this, but anybody in air quotes, if you're not able to see this, I'm air quoting this, anybody can do a tax return, right? Anybody in the profession can do a tax return. That's the assumption. If you come to
Hmm.
me and say, hey, I want to be your accountant, well, I'm going to assume that you're qualified to do my tax returns. Where you differentiate yourself is when you get into that advisory, because the advisory is what, again, as a small business owner, that's what I need. I don't need you to do, yes, I need you to do my tax return, or actually, I want you to. I don't need you to. I could probably do it. May or may not be the best one ever done, but I could do it and I could stay in compliance. But what I need is somebody holding my hand going, hey, but that's great, but did you notice this? I was
Yes.
looking at your books and look at this. Did you realize you spent 20% more on X than you did last year? And that's why you're not putting as much money in your pocket? Well, no, I didn't realize that because I was running my business, right? So I
Mm.
need somebody in that advisory role on my shoulder saying, hey, I'm looking out for your business too, right? So leveraging AI, what are kind of maybe the top 3 or 5 ways that you've seen firms leverage AI?
Yeah. So, first of all, there's a lot of automation out there. And I mean, even if you're using those accounting platforms, I know a lot of people use QuickBooks. There is so much AI built into that. And I think that a lot of people aren't utilizing a lot of what's going on in there. So, taking the time to learn and figuring out what's going to work for you. And also just doing a little bit of Google research to say, how can I leverage my accounting business with AI? There are going to be a plethora of different platforms and usability apps and functions that you're going to be able
Mhm.
to put in your business to be able to do that. So that's really on the functionality standpoint of it. I would also say the other two things, right? Because you said three, is that what accounting firms are doing. I think also not just the implementation of it, but the mindset of it, right? To be able to shift into that and be able to look at it as a friend versus a foe, right? It makes for a great servant, but a terrible master. So just really understanding the advantages there. And then third is that really looking at advisory. How is it that you can start putting advisory services in? And that also justifies the higher fees, right? Because you're going to be
Mhm.
talking to your clients on a deeper level. The other thing that they value is, once again, remember at the beginning, I said your clients don't like surprises. if you're able to paint the picture of what's coming up for them 2 months before it happens, there's your value right there. And
Right.
that's what they want from you. And this goes back to the research we were also talking about at the beginning.
Yeah. And something like that, that one nugget that you might find may make them sticky for 10 years, right? And that's what you want ultimately. Well, you want your good clients to be sticky and you want to
Absolutely.
fire the rest of them.
Hmm.
So the research, since
Yeah.
you mentioned it, talk about that. So
Yeah.
you mentioned you are, I don't know if you mentioned it here, I think in the green room, you're writing a book or
Yes.
working to write a book, working on a book, but and part of that is researching and talking to small business owners.
It is. It is.
So
And
what have you found?
yeah. So when you're writing a book, there is a research phase. And so I'm not in the active writing of it right now. I have to go out and interview people to try to justify my hypothesis, right?
Okay.
Um, so in talking with a lot of business owners, and I'm probably up to about 65 right now. I've got to do my
Okay.
first 100, which sounds like a lot, and it is, but it's great meeting people for 15 minutes, just asking them some high level questions. And one of the big holes, the thing that gets repeated over and over and over again, is the fact that the one thing, and this is the question I ask, what's the one thing that your accountant does well? But number two, what is it that you wish they did more of? And so this is where the research comes in and the big hole is coming in. And I'm going to read from one of my interviews. And when I was I had a webinar last month where I actually showed the quote to say that, okay, the question was, so do you have someone that keeps track of your books, or do you have a bookkeeper and accountant in your business? Yes, I do. And the response was, tell me some of the things that you wish they did that they don't do. And the response was, I'm saying this because it's sort of the common answer around my other business colleagues is that I wish they gave me strategic advice and drove the business forward. But I've just learned over the years that this is how it is.
Mhm.
That's not from me.
Right.
That's from a business owner who is the client of an accountant, right? And I wish I could tell the accountant, listen, this is what your business, they're like almost hopeless because they've been
Right.
wanting more. And the other thing is you have to remember the business owner is so good at what they do. They're focused on what they're good at, right? Whether it's digital marketing or whether they're in the medical field. Like when it comes to the finances, that's not really their jam. So guide them, right? That is part of if we treated it almost like a fiduciary responsibility, I think there would be a little bit of a shift, right?
Right.
Versus just staying in the boxes, right? Of what we have to do, check the boxes. That's great. But really, business owners want you in it with them in their business because you are the eyes and the ears, really, to see what's coming up in the business and being able to be more strategic, bringing things to them. This is the other word that comes up proactively versus
Hmm.
being reactive. Like you said, I don't want to hear from you on December 29th with the problem. That's being reactive. But if we're meeting December 1st and saying, oh, let's look at your income, let's make sure we're doing some tax planning. And oh, you're going to have an influx of money this month. Good. We need to be talking now so we can take the actions in the current year and not wait till the next year when guess what? It's too late.
Right. So here's a question. As you were talking, it came to mind for me and again, as a small business owner, my perspective, are we expecting too much from our accountant? Because basically, kind of what that person was saying to me as you were saying it, that person saying, I need a CEO running my business. I need a person who is here day to day, got their sleeves rolled up, and they're helping me run the business.
Hmm.
Is that a reasonable expectation?
So I think it is a reasonable expectation from the business owner who is the CEO, and I'll tell you why. Because they are ultimately responsible for all the decisions in the company, but they need to have a vision or a dashboard or insight into their finances. And giving the business owner reports every month, kind of checking the compliance box, right? You're doing
Hmm.
the right thing, yes, but you want to know what the business owner is doing with those reports? They don't understand them. They
Right.
don't know what to do with them. And you have to just look at it from that perspective to say, listen, they're not finance people. That's why they hired you. So why not help them? And it's just a conversation. That's all it is, right? So if you really, and what I tend to do when I take on my clients, I tell them straight up to say, I am going to love your business just like it's my own. And I'm going to give you insight into that business as if it was my own, right? But don't forget, and I know that kind of sounds a little heavy, but that's how you build deep rapport. You want to talk about a sticky factor? There's the
Hmm.
sticky factor. You will have these clients for a long time that will finally, and I hear this complaint too, is not getting compensated at the level that you want to. But compliance work is check the box, and AI can take care of that. So why are people going to pay for it, right? They will
Right.
pay for advisory. So I don't think it's asking too much because honestly, I also think a lot of your listener audience is already doing this. They
Hmm.
just have to do it in a different way so that the business owner, you're on the same page with the business owner and start giving them the things that they want, finding the holes, because the business owner doesn't want to look stupid either, right? You're giving them reports they don't understand, but they don't necessarily want to tell you, oh, I don't know what this means, right?
Right.
But it's being brave and courageous enough to have those conversations. Say, hey, do you even open up those reports every month and kind of make it like, very, very light to say, yeah, we've sent those reports every month. And this is a conversation opener. Do you look at them? Is there something on there that perplexes you? Because I know for some of my
Hmm.
clients, they kind of scratch their head and then move on to the next month. But what would be helpful for you? Just ask the questions, they'll tell you.
Right. Right. That's great. So were any other conversations that you had that had anything that really popped out that you're like, wow, this is the major problem? I mean, because that's a big one. The one you
Yeah.
just said is a
Yeah,
huge one.
well, that's
Anything
pretty
else?
major. That's pretty
Yes.
major. Between
Yeah.
that and being proactive, those were the
Hmm.
top two. There's other ancillary things as well. I think the other thing that pops out is that they really need information on how and when to hire. That's another big, I would say that's probably number three that popped up. So giving your business owner guidance, giving the CEO guidance, going back to, is it too much? No, they don't want you running the company. They just want a second set of eyes on what they're doing. Does that take much more time? Not really. Why?
Right.
Because you have those expert trained eyes. You can look at this stuff and interpret it in 2 seconds. And then it's a matter of having a consultation with your CEO or client. And what is it, 30 minutes? Right? Either once a quarter, once a month, I don't know, however you want to set it up. That is so valuable to the business owner so that they know that they are on track. When they have that data, especially with hiring, a lot of times they're overhiring, they're
Mm.
inefficient, their teams are inefficient. You can see that in the numbers. And then when to hire. And what if you can give them a little 3 month runway to hire someone so that they can start generating revenue on that person, but you give them a 3 month cushion to be able to do that. That's what they want to know and see. And they want to know that they have somebody there that can help them guide that versus shooting from the hip. A lot of times that's what they're doing because they don't understand the numbers.
And some, and there's tons of reporting apps out there, right, that can dashboard it for you, red, green, yellow,
Yeah.
and that send those reports to the clients. I think QuickBooks now is even doing some of that
Yeah.
within that's the app itself. Um, is there had a question, but I totally lost it. But so with these challenges that certainly accounting firms know they have these challenges. They know, oh gosh, I need to be more proactive, but I don't have time. Oh, I need to give more advice, but I don't have time. That's kind of, we hear that, there's a
Mhm.
time issue.
Mhm.
Um, in fact, you talked about human resources. And in our research that we've done, the past two reader profile studies that we compiled, one of the top, I think it was top three or four issues was hiring. And
Mm.
so it was human resources related. So we actually worked with somebody similar to yourself and produced some human resources related webinars and had 0.0 people show up for it.
Mm.
And we actually have a series that we're doing right now. It's on our paid platform, but of all the webinars that we're doing on this paid platform, the human resources one is the least attended.
Yeah.
And I think it's because people are like, yes, I know I have a problem, but I have bigger problems I'm going to deal with.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing I can figure because they've all said, hey, we have this problem, but then they don't show up when we have a solution for them.
Sure. And so I think I might have a thought around that.
Yeah.
There's another thing that, it's one thing if an accountant wants to just kind of stay where they are, right, in their
Hmm.
business. And what I mean by that is stay in the doing. If you're the one, getting the clients, servicing the clients, and you're in the doing, then yes, you are going to continue to be time challenged because if you're comfortable in the doing and you want to stay in that stage, then this is what the business is going to be, right? But what we're saying here is that start looking ahead a little bit because it's changing, right? And there's those people, if they're stuck in the doing and they don't see anything outside of that, if you want to get to the next level, right? And if you want to grow your business, if you want to make more money, it's about stepping up into more of a communication level. Communication level makes more money. So you're in the doing level, and then you're in the next level of communication. It's kind of a 1-2 punch. It's communicating to delegate the doing, right? Right. So that's the communication. So you're putting that off to AI or you're putting that off to a hire that's going to manage all of the AI, right? And what it's doing on that function. So then you only have one hire versus five, two, three, four, five, whatever that is. But then
Yep.
also that communication level is that advisory. So if there are people that aren't showing up to the HR piece of this, a lot of times people are very, very comfortable in the doing stage and they're not looking to get to the next stage. And that's okay for now, right? But the forward thinkers and the people that can see what's coming up with AI, once again, it makes a great servant, but a terrible master, right? And this
Right.
is where we're going. So it's kind of like, hey, we got some red lights here, pay attention to it. So if you have forward thinkers, right? Future forward, right? Forward
Yeah.
thinkers,
Yeah.
they understand this. And those are the type of people which would probably be more likely to attend things like that. So you just have to kind of figure out where those people are.
And is that part of what you work with clients on is to help them look forward and to help them figure out, okay, look, I'm going to work 10 hours a day, whatever the number is. I'm working 10
Yeah.
hours a day.
Mm.
Do you work with them on figuring out how to better use that 10 hours in a day?
Sure. Yeah, we
Yeah.
do talk about that. And so, where I come into all of this is that because all I do is advisory work, and I've been doing that over the last 10 years, I've had a lot of accountants come to me and say, hey, how do I step into that space? How do I do what you do? How do I get out of this doing, right? And so, that is where I stepped into this space to help accountants on this end of the business, right? Work with my consulting clients, but then also working with accountants on how they can start stepping into advisory and making sure they up level. And you start that with shifting your conversations,
Mm.
right? Remember, I told you about the different levels of building your business. If you're stuck in the doing, that's going to be compliance. If you want to move up to the next run, it's about communication. And that is where I work with the accountants on, right? So it's about up leveling your communication and then everything else goes from there.
Okay, great. And then, so I think we've hit on all the things that we talked about, unless
Yeah,
correct me if I'm wrong.
I think so.
I think we did. There was one other question I had for you, and that was around, we didn't talk about this before, but it was around back on a little bit on that human resources side. Are you seeing firms outsourcing, not accounting work, but outsourcing kind of the grunt work is the best way to put it, of a firm, of running a firm, whether it's you know, get a person in here to leverage AI. Are you seeing them offshore that, or are you seeing them bring in fractional type people? What are you seeing with all your
So
clients?
yeah, so from the accounting standpoint or
Yeah,
from the accounting standpoint, so if we're dealing with small businesses, you usually have a solo practitioner or maybe they have one other person or two other people that they've hired, right?
yeah.
So if you're a solo practitioner and you've just gotten really busy, right? What I'm seeing there for the solo practitioners, yes, they're utilizing AI first and then they'll look for the hiring resources. Some of those here are stateside, some of those are offshore. And then another option that people are doing is taking taking in the agency option, hiring an agency that brings them the best of the best so they don't have to go through and kind of do all the
Hmm.
interviews. And if somebody doesn't work out, then they can get them somebody else. It also comes with some safeguards with regards to security and compliance around data and things like that. That's what's nice about working with an agency. But that is what I'm seeing. Where I'm seeing hiring the person or having somebody come in the office, but a lot of this is remote, is hiring the day-to-day kind of like an operations manager to just
Hmm.
manage everything so that you can get out of the doing and step into that communication, do more advisory work, get paid more for it, and have this other person manage the day-to-day, right? Utilizing those other resources. So that's where I'm seeing people hiring right now.
And how do you have just a ballpark percentage of how many are offshoring it versus inshore?
I don't have it. I'll just
Yeah.
tell you from my experience, it's kind of split. It's
Okay.
kind of split. And
All
we've got a couple pieces to the pie here. So we've got AI, we've
right.
got
Hmm.
offshore, and we've got onshore. So, and then I like that agency piece. So it's kind of like I like to call it the four-legged stool, right? So you have four different ways to be able to manage the doing in the business, and you've got some options because some people aren't comfortable with offshoring, right? Some people want to have people hire people stateside, right? But you also have to make it work for your business, right?
Right.
Fiscally and from an output efficiency standpoint, which we're all good at doing those numbers, right? And you can figure that out.
Right. Well, that's funny because that's what we're in our meetings. Our year is kind of weird. I mean, we're on a January through December fiscal year,
Mm,
but the way our business rolls, as because we're our customers are directly related, tied into tax
yeah,
season, obviously. So we do a lot of planning kind of December into January. So we're kind of in planning now. And the operations is what we're looking at now. We're like, all right, how do we, because my business partner and I, you know, our backgrounds aren't, crunching data or doing all the, mind numbing things that you have to do in running a small business. And how do we get that operations person to make sure all the stuff gets done efficiently and effectively,
yeah,
and so that we can go and do what we'd rather be doing, right,
yeah,
in the business.
absolutely. Yeah,
So,
there's a lot of resources out there. And even if you're not sure, there are outsourced or fractional operations people, right? Fractional COOs, or somebody on like or like an operations person that will actually come into your business, do an evaluation, say, oh, this is what you need. Because a lot of
mhm.
times what we think we need, we don't. So instead of starting with the job description, what I like to do is, and this is a very easy exercise, write down all the things that need to be done that you don't want to do. And then somebody like
That'd be a
that,
really long list.
yeah, but that's okay. But
Right.
that's okay. Then somebody with a trained eye from an operations standpoint, even if it's just one session with them, you can get so
Hmm.
much clarity to say, what is it that you really need?
Yeah.
And if you can hire that one person that can just manage it and you can go ahead and put AI or those other resources in the doing, right? Then that's when you've got a really, really nice, efficient team. And those dollars are going to go farther and be able to come back from an ROI standpoint.
Yeah. That's great insight. All right,
Yeah.
Deborah, anything that we haven't talked about, anything that you want to leave, a little nugget of wisdom? I mean, you've left a lot of nuggets of wisdom
Yeah.
here.
You
Anything you want
know,
to leave in parting?
Oh, there's such a huge opportunity. And for those of you that are in the doing, and if that's where you want to stay, great. Keep doing what you're doing. I understand your value. If you are looking to up level, come on in. The water's warm. Like we need more advisors out there, and your clients are always looking for that. And I do have a free resource for people if they want to go ahead and start up leveling their conversation. So if you head over to mastermysales.com, I've got a freebie. It's the 6 questions to ask on every consultative conversation and to up level your conversations with your prospects so you can start jumping into that advisory seat and stand out from everybody else out there. So it's a great resource.
And from there, can they also connect with you as well, or what's the best
Yes.
way for them if somebody wanted to connect with you directly?
Yeah, they can connect with me over at mastermysales.com or they can find me on LinkedIn. That's fine. And just go ahead and message me. And I'm very active on LinkedIn. So looking forward to talking with you there.
Great. And we should see you again on a future forward in 2025, we hope. So we'll
Oh my
certainly be in
gosh,
touch on that.
super exciting. Yes, absolutely. Great content, by the way. Congratulations. What a great job on your last Future Forward event.
Great. Well, Deborah, thank you so much. Happy New Year.
Thank
Enjoyed catching
you.
up with you.
You
Thanks.
as well.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Gary.